Salutations, viewers and coins of the vault. I am Tatsumari. Many of you may be familiar with my series Maplestory the novel Sacred Tears, but just as many of you, if not more, may not be familiar with the game or the story that inspired it. So I am here to set that right. What am I referring to? I mean the game Maplestory and its extensive, if not slightly misaligned tale told over many classes, maps, and quests. I know others have compiled the lore of Maplestory, and I am not intentionally detracting from them. I will try as much as possible to perform my own research and compilation, including bits and pieces from what I remember and have experienced from old Maplestory before what is known as the Big Bang Update in July of 2010. This series was inspired by the works of Vaatividya and SmoughTown and their Elden Ring lore presentations. Since Maplestory is something that I am familiar with, I thought it'd be interesting to present its lore in a similar style. To that end, I will attempt to include as many of the class questlines, mini-dungeons, overall story, and story quests as possible that have at least a little bit of story. Let me know what you think overall in the comments below, and leave a like if you did enjoy it. For the most part, the lore within Maplestory can be broken down to a very simplistic journey of a chosen one to defeat the Dark Lord and protect the world from his destruction. But it goes deeper and farther than that. Far, far deeper. To understand the extensive story, we must first start at the end of the game, in a time where there was nothing except one being, the Primordial God. Everything in existence came from this one deity, much like the origin story from Norse mythology. Once existence was started, the Primordial God set rules to govern existence, 365 in all, and 365 gods were created to represent each of these laws. Worlds were made and ruled over by these gods. Unfortunately, all was not well, as these gods governed with only themselves in mind, taking and warring against each other indiscriminately, with little to no regard for the people caught in the middle. Out of all of them, only 4 names are definitively known: Mitra, the goddess of the sun; Archelon, the turtle; Satyras, the devil dragon; and Abraxas, the watchful god. Mortals of the universe cried out, hoping these gods would end their ways and rule justly, but their cries went unheard. And so the mortals began to look for a way to challenge the gods themselves. But gods and mortals exist on differing planes of reality, making it difficult, if not impossible, for a mortal to challenge a god, let alone injure one. That is when some of these mortals tried using the relics of the gods to allow them access and harm them. Unfortunately, these relics only allowed their power to be used by individuals they deemed worthy to wield in combination with the will of many people for a single purpose, much like the Excalibur of King Arthur or the Sword of Mitra from Maplestory's Cernium. The number of people needed for this to happen was unknown. So a search for a way to force or trick these relics into granting their power was undertaken. Little did they know that this research would take them to places better left alone, leading to the discovery of the Abyss, the source of all knowledge within the universe. My personal theory is that the Abyss could be one of two things: the Primordial God's library or a manifestation of the Primordial's mind. The discovery of this place led to the discovery of the creatures existing within it called Specters, which could be the same as the warrior, magician, reaper, and master specters seen marching with Magnus in Grandis. There are also other variants that seem more solid than a being of energy, so they too could be residents of the Abyss. With the discovery of the Abyss and the Specters, the people began experimenting by sending some of their own into the Abyss to fill a person with Specter souls, thereby tricking the godly relics into granting their power to an individual. It was a disaster. What came back wasn't the soul-infused warrior they were hoping for. Instead, they produced a being whose mind was lost, and the sole purpose was destroying every living being they came in contact with. Despite the dangers, the need to challenge the gods was greater, pushing humanity to continue fusing humans with specters. Through the gruesome tests, the discovery was made that it was the Abyss causing their subjects to lose themselves, as well as their soul, as a cost for seeing the infinite knowledge stored therein. By losing all of this, it left the subjects open to be overtaken by a specter, twisting and mutating them into the destructive beasts that came back. It isn't stated, but I theorize that if any managed to come back without being possessed by a specter, they were likely brain-dead husks of their former selves. Still, the experiments continued, utilizing subjects, referred to as hosts, with stronger wills and constitutions to resist losing themselves and being overtaken by a specter. It continued for years, likely resulting in the loss of thousands, if not millions, in humanity's desperate reach for power against the gods. Finally, they succeeded. It isn't outright stated if multiple hosts were created or not, but the resulting success led to humanity gaining the power to wield the relics of the gods. The countless specters fused into the hosts tricked the relics into granting their power, mistakenly interpreting the countless wills within the host as the will of the world. But the victory was short-lived, as the gods continued to rule as they pleased. The Primordial God still sought to bring order to the world and thus created three beings known as Overseers, or to some, the Will of the World. These beings are described by Ollie from the Tenebris Expedition storyline as the Force of Order and the Essence of Balance. Additionally, according to her, they appear as fog, formless and twisting. A lack of chosen form is not the only thing that sets them apart, as their only directive is to bring order to the universe, at the expense of everything else. You may see these beings as tyrants, and you may be right, as many people and even races were slaughtered in the war to come, all in the name of order. To aid in their quest, a relic of unparalleled power was created by the Overseers called the Worldheart. Little is known about the Worldheart's shape or size. However, the only picture I could find depicts it as a blue sphere. What did it do, you ask? This unassuming sphere could rend the power away from any god or godlike being. Depending on the interpretation of its description, it could be inferred that it left these beings inert and asleep, but it also implies that if used with more deliberate force, it could kill them. The Worldheart also appears to have limited power, which could be drained. This too could lead to terrifying results, as the Worldheart could take power from another being and use it as its own. Whether or not this relic has any sentience to it is not stated. Despite this power, the Overseers cannot interact or interfere with any mortal directly, or the universe itself, due to its inherent chaotic nature and the Overseers being embodiments of order. Additionally, the use of the Worldheart was also limited. Because of this, the Overseers can only exert a limited amount of control and order over the universe through the concepts of suppression and conservation. When I am further along in this series, I will expand on these concepts. For this purpose, the Overseers chose 12 elders from a race known as the Anima on a planet of Grandis to exert their will in full. Their original mission was to make the universe a better place by sharing their wisdom and knowledge with all. The elders revered the Overseers as the penultimate authority, accepting the mission and the Worldheart without question. After gifting the Worldheart to the Anima, the Overseers instructed the elders in their mission to create beings who could overpower and defeat the 365 gods. There is more that I could expand upon, but there is still a lot of research and compilation to do, and I wanted to give you all something since I do keep mentioning it in the live streams. So keep an eye out for more. Be sure to subscribe and become a coin in the vault so that you don't miss a thing. So, until next time, my friends.
When your fires all die out, all you know just turns to ash, and your life goes slipping, spinning into doubt. Sunshine trapped inside your heart, cold and lost and in the dark. Looking back on all this, nobody was there. Nothing left to lose. Gotta find the you that's hidden deep